Hi, welcome to Diamond Custom Paint Shop. This is part 3 of a series of videos that we call Bobber. These videos is where we take a motorcycle project from start to finish. In this case, we're taking these bobber parts from bare metal all the way to the end to a custom paint job. And you'll be able to see step by step as I put videos out as I finish each step. In past videos, part 1 and 2, first we did epoxy primer on bare metal, and then after that we applied just regular high build primer on top of that. And then in this video now we're going to sand this primer down so you have a flat, smooth, straight surface to apply, start building up those applications of your base coat and your coats on top of that and your custom graphics. It's really important that you in this step that you get everything nice and straight and flat how you want it, because if you don't, in the end, when you do that final clear coat and you're looking at it, you could see little ripples or lines aren't quite straight because you didn't get this step quite right. So this step is really important in the process, and like I said, you want all your lines to be straight, like along here on this tank. Everything needs to be really flat and really smooth. There's a couple of things I want to talk about as you're sanding this down to help you out. First thing is going to be your sanding pattern. So you'll use either a block like this and with sandpaper on it. And so you want your patterns when you're sanding across flat surface like this, kind of go on a diagonal action. And I call it crisscross, and then go back and forth crisscrossing in long strokes, right? Up and down your part. And then when you get the curves, you don't want to just keep going like this back and forth, because then you'll basically dig a groove in there is what will actually happen. So you want to kind of just come around the corners like this, and you'll see this when in our next segment of this where I actually start sanding down. But yeah, you're going to go along the edges, kind of at a diagonal pattern here, along the edges, and then kind of back and forth, and roll it around and get that all blended in nice and smooth. Another thing you'll see is we're going to use some of this guide coat. So when you're sanding guide coat, your low spots are going to be black, right? So if you get to a spot where everything's pretty much sanded, but you still have like a spot of guide coat there that's black, that means you have a low spot. The one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to zone in on that spot particular and sit there and go at it, because that'll just make your problem worse. You want to do long strokes across that spot, just like the pattern I showed you, until that's gone. If you get down to bare metal and it's still there, that means you're going to have to add some kind of a body filler to fill that void up, and then go ahead and just use the epoxy on that. Another thing I would have mentioned too, you'll probably actually burn too in a couple small spots down to, if there's some spots on your parts that aren't that even, especially if you get new parts. They're famous for not being exactly smooth and straight on the bare metal. So yeah, don't be afraid if you burn through, because you can use stuff like this Limeline high build primer builder, and it's excellent for that. It's made to go on metal, so don't freak out or anything if you burn down past the epoxy primer, because you can just use your high build primer. The epoxy primer is basically like a primer, but it's really hardened. It really seals everything up. But regular primer does the job just as good too. Maybe not as good as epoxy primer. Epoxy primer, most people say it's going above and beyond, because a lot of times you can just get away with just going right to primer on bare metal too, and you were not going to have any problems. So yes. And then another thing is pressure. You don't need to really work your arms out too hard. I mean, you're already going to be moving them back and forth a lot. Pressure, you just let the sandpaper do the job. Just work it back and forth, light pressure on there, and you'll see your sandpaper will do the job. And plus two, it seems like if I really try to like dig hard down on it, it clogs up your sandpaper a lot quicker. So I found it best for me anyways, if I just do, let the sandpaper do its job, just light pressure on it, back and forth. Okay, and then so like I mentioned before, some of the products and stuff we're going to be using to sand this down. First off, we're going to use this SEM guide coat, which is really awesome. It's a rattle can, has a bottom, you have to shake it, and it just sprays on. And then we're going to use some sandpaper from Limeline. You can get it in the sheets like this, or you can get it in these 6-inch round pads here that'll go on a DA sander. It has a backing on it that sticks to the Velcro. And then you can use one of these sanding blocks. This is also from Limeline. And these are awesome because you can just stick your round 6-inch pads right on there. And it Velcros right on, just like that. Then also you can get these on Limeline, which is probably what I'll be using on the tank, because it's got a hard side here, almost not as hard as this is, but it's got a harder side here and a softer side. And you'll just take your sheets of sandpaper and you'll wrap it around it. And I'll show you how to do that in the video too, and use that to sand your parts down with. So you have I'll show you this high build primer. It'll be one of the end clips that I'll show applying this, because this is what after I burn through a few spots, I'll put this on. As you'll see in the video, I started with 600 grit, but then I moved to 400 grit, and that's because this Limeline primer is really tough, which is a good thing. I was really surprised how tough it was. So it would take me a longer time to do it with the 600. So I switched. You'll see me. I'll switch to the 400, and that cut down my time quite a bit. So what I was leading to say with that is, in the end, I'm going to spray the high build primer on all my bare spots. Wait the time limit. I think it's 15 minutes. It says, and you can probably start to sand. You want to check it to make sure, but I think it's 15 minutes. Now I'm going to take 600 grit and sand all that down, nice and smooth, blend it in with the rest of it. And I'll probably finish sand everything with 600 grit real quick to get ready for the base coat, which we'll do in the next episode of these videos. So let's, I already recorded me sanding the rear fender, which I'm going to show in this video. I'm only going to sand about half of it or so, and then we'll cut it. I don't think you want to see me, I'm not going to sand everything. You don't want to see 2 hours of me sanding all these parts down. So I just did, I think I recorded half the tank, maybe 3/4 of it. I do some narrative in there, kind of explaining some of the things I talked about already with, when you get to those spots and stuff, how to sand. So it's, that'll be in there, that video. So, and then we'll recap at the end with what we did and what we turned out like. And that video will have, it'll be ready to go to apply my black base coat. All right, well, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, here we go. First, I'll show you how I put my sandpaper on this block. So I'll be taping on this this black side here. So I'll butt my sandpaper right up to that edge. Use a piece of tape to hold it. Now I'll just kind of fold this around tightly. Keep folding it around. And you see you'll come up here to this edge and just put a little piece of tape here on this edge. And that'll kind of hold it there for you, plus your hands will hold it. As you can see, it doesn't come over onto the bottom edge. There's the edge right there, and there's where you're going to be sanding on this side right here. So yeah, thought I'd just give you that little tidbit. Okay, let's spray some guide coat on. Give it a little shake. You see it just goes on real light mist. And you can keep reapplying this too if you want. And that's it. That's all you kind of really need. You'll be able to see that. Whoop, little stripe there. Okay, we'll let that kind of, it doesn't take very long to dry. It's pretty much already almost about, it's probably dry. It says you can, the can, it says you can pretty much apply light mist, and that says sand until guide coat can no longer be seen. So on the can there. So you can pretty much start sanding on it right away. All right. So what I like to do is I like to start in one spot. We'll start on the front here. Yeah, I'm going to switch to some 400 grit. Going to help speed this along a little bit. There we go. And this is by Limeline too. This is also a wet dry sandpaper. We're just going to go in some cross patterns here. So you can see we'll just go to those. The black is gone. That means a lot of your orange peel will be out from the primer, and then all your low spots will be sanded out. Now you can, if you find you get spots where you kind of pretty much get back down to the epoxy primer and you still have black. You can also always go ahead and just use a bit of feathering filler on there, and then just use rattle can primer just to hit those spots again, and then sand it down again. Limeline makes a good rattle can high build primer. See, like right here, I may have to do that. We'll have to spray the guide coat back on there and then see what that looks like. See if that's an actual low spot now or if that's going to be good. So then these fender edges are always pretty tricky. We'll see how straight we can get those. Sometimes you have to add a little bit to these too. A little bit of not Bondo, but like the U-pole feathering, or like the dolphin glaze. So U-pole makes a good one. It's kind of like the dolphin glaze. I think U-pole actually makes dolphin glaze, if I'm not mistaken. But so I'll show you that at the end of the video. I'll show you that in the can of Limeline high build primer, the rattle can used for spot repairs. Looks like another spot right there on the lip of this fender might need a little bit of help. Or if it's not too bad, you can just use spray some more high build primer on there, but you don't want to go too thick with the high build primer. Like that one, I might be able to get away with it, just barely. And as you can see, I wipe this every once in a while on my jeans. Wear some old jeans when you do this to kind of keep it from getting clogged up, the sandpaper. Okay, you can see we got the whole bottom area pretty much done already. Kind of just keep working our way up. Okay, one thing I wanted to say is when you're sanding and you come across these low spots, so let's say this little area right here is going to be a low spot. You don't want to just go in there and just sand this little small spot like that, because you're just making it worse. You may get rid of the black, but you're really just digging yourself a bigger hole. You want to do a big broad areas, cross stroking across it until it's gone. So that way everything is blended in nice, flat, and smooth. So you want to kind of come across it like this. And then this way, just keep kind of going different directions. You'll see everything around it's going away, and that's still there. But you don't want to get in here now and kind of dig at it, because you're just making it worse. So you just keep with those broad strokes to kind of everything smooths in around the outside areas here. So you just keep working it. And there we go. Let off pressure on your sandpaper, kind of real light, really get that blend in there. And there you go, then the spot's gone. We have still a little more down there, so we'll kind of do big areas for that one. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Broad strokes on everything. So otherwise, you're just making the problem worse. Okay, well there we go. There's our final sanding prep for base coat video. The things that we used in this video, remember we used the guide coat first to get everything nice, flat, smooth, and straight. Remember how important that is. We used Limeline's high build surface primer, which is awesome for those little spot repairs you need to do. You can see I included that in my video where you see me spray that on and just give it a little sand. What I did is I sprayed this on, and then when I sanded it, I used 600 grit, which I used for my final sand over the whole part to get ready for the base coat. Because the first coat I'm going to be spraying is black, so you want the scratches to be as small as possible, but still enough for the base coat to have something to grab onto. I had a little repair I did on the front of the tank, just a little dime size ding in it. And I used this U-Pull fantastic body filler. And this stuff works awesome. What I like about this is the drying time is 15 to 20 minutes. So yeah, I put it on, I waited 20 minutes, and I was able to sand it right off, apply my high build primer on top of that, to kind of make sure everything was nice and smoothed out. What I did though first, so I applied the body filler, then I put a little bit more of this guide coat on that spot, and then I sanded it down after I did to make sure everything was smooth. That was after I applied, so sorry, the filler, the high build primer, then the guide coat, and then sanded it with 600 grit till everything was nice and smooth. You know, all the black was gone from the guide coat. So yeah, so stay tuned for the next video in this series where I'm going to be spraying the base coat. Just a little spoiler, it's going to be murdered red, so it's going to be really cool. There's a process you go about doing it, so I'll show you how to do that the way I do it. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down in the comment section and I'll get back to you. And if you like this video, please subscribe, and then I'll see you on the next one.